amigos y amigas de Breaking News. Bien, bienvenidos a un capítulo más, un episodio más. Este que te habla, con el Carramos Liga Cristo, con Enrique Fernández y Arturo Ferrer.
Por ahí.
¿Cómo estamos hoy, bebé?
¡En vivo! We are live.
Estamos en vivo y a todo color a las 8 de la noche en Puerto Rico, las 7 en Texas y en California. Bueno, en Washington State son las 5, si no mal no recuerdo. Creo que sí. Si no, me metí la pata, no importa.
Rubén confirmó.
Pues estoy bien.
5 p.m., you got it.
Pues al episodio de hoy le pusimos Entre Birras y Lupulos. ¿Por qué le pusimos Entre Birras y Lupulos? Porque vamos a estar con la gente. Tenemos a Eric y Shelly de CLS Farms en Jackie Maval, y tenemos a Rubén también por ahí al otro lado, y tenemos en la otra esquina tenemos a Alexandra, que es Brewmaster de Three Waivers en Los Ángeles, California. Bienvenidos. How you doing, guys? Welcome to Breaking News, Beer and Coffee. How you doing?
Hi. Great.
Awesome to have you guys here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. Means a lot. We know you guys are busy.
Yeah.
We usually start the show having a beer. I don't know if you guys are gonna have a beer, but
Yes, I will have
I will.
one.
what are you guys drinking?
I'm going with our flagship IPA, Expatriate. I mean, for seveal reasons, mostly because it's made with El Dorado.
Awesome.
Okay.
We're drinking Hazy Little Thing by Sierra Nevada.
Nice.
That's a great beer, super drinkable.
Yeah. Favorite drinkable.
Also, Ruben have the same one, right?
Yeah.
Easy little thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
That can that Alex has looks really cool.
Señor director, ¿puede ponchar a Alexandra?
Alexandra.
Show the can again so everybody can see it. Nice.
Three Weavers Brewing, correct?
That is
Awesome.
us. Yeah.
Nice. And tú, Kike, what you are drinking?
I'm having a beer from Fox Farm in Connecticut. I don't know if the light's gonna let me. Fox Farm Brewery, Swale Unfiltered IPA.
Nice.
Arturo,
Smells pretty
cuéntame.
good.
I'm just drinking a homebrew. It's an American lager.
Nice.
I will have a monkish. I have it right here. A monkish. Deeper concentration. This one have a Citra Mosaic El Dorado Galaxy. 8.3% de alcohol.
Cogí un cantacito, ¿verdad?
Hazy. Sí,
cogí
cogí un cantazo, sí.
¿verdad?
Sí, yeah.
Beautiful beer.
Cheers. Salud.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
So we were talking before starting the show. The only person we had last time was Eric from CLS Farms. Today we have Shelly, also co-owner, Alexander from Three Weavers, and Rubén. We usually start asking people like how they got into the beer world. Like, what made you guys like get into beer for the first time? Was it a beer that you tried? How did you guys get into this wonderful industry?
Yes.
I don't know if we want to start with Shelly or
Alexandra.
Yeah, we start with Alexandra, yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So I started, I didn't start as a home brewer, which is not the likely path of most professional brewers. I took a brewing science course when I was in college at Florida International in Miami as an elective, just totally off chance. And it turns out I really loved everything about the art and science of beer. So my college professor was like, you can actually have a career in this if you'd like. It doesn't pay very well. It's dominated by men, but you seem fairly passionate about it. So I don't know, maybe consider it. And I did. And as soon as I graduated from college, I got an internship at Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. And so that's what brought me to
Nice.
California. Yeah, I know, just this little brewery in Northern California. But that's what brought me out to California and started the first hoppy beer I ever had was Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. When I was in school in Florida, there were really no good options for beer. Pale Ale was the hoppiest beer you could get. And it was the first hoppy beer I ever had that was fresh. And I was just like, what is this? And so the fact that I was able to connect that with an internship at Sierra was really impactful. And then from there, I mean, I decided that I really loved it. And I made it my vocation, my career, and like my number one passion in life. And that was about 13 years ago. So it's progressed since then into many other breweries, and then co-founding Three Weavers back in 2013. So
it's a pretty amazing startup gig with Sierra Nevada. So that must have been wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
it's like the biggest flex you could have as like your first brewery on a resume. I mean, I haven't been asked for a resume in a really long time, but those first couple of gigs that I got after Sierra, they're like, can we see your resume? Oh, Sierra Nevada. Oh, cool. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's an open door.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Eric,
Shelly, go for it.
Well, I think my first experience with beer was, back in the 90s, but it wasn't really beer that brought us all together. It was hops, and then beer. And Eric and I met, and we got married, and coming upon 25 years later, we have a hop farm together and 3 children, 3 daughters, and CLS stands for Claire, Lauren, and Shelly. And thanks for the hat rep. And together, we've with some great team members, Cherie and Reed, and now our daughter Claire has come on board. We're farming, and we're excited to get to know all these great brewers over the years that have come through our farm. And Alex is one of those that has been a great friendship and great beer, that she makes. And we're actually down there last week brewing up some beer. So, it's just been a great ride for 25 years.
wow, nice. And Ruben?
Me, so yeah, I guess my connection.
Ruben. In
Yeah.
Spanish, my friend.
Ruben.
Well, let's mix
Come
it
on.
up. So, entonces mi conexión con, ¿cómo le llaman en Puerto Rico? Birria.
Cerveza.
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 ¿Verdad? Ok, mi conexión fue pues hace mucho tiempo, yo creo unos 25 años. Aquí prácticamente nací en los quiles de CLS Farms y pues siempre sabía que el lúpulo se usaba para la cerveza. Entonces pues de ahí siempre sabía que era para eso. Entonces ya después pues ya cuando legalmente tenía la edad pues ya probé bien a gusto la cerveza, ¿verdad?
Rubén, ¿estás seguro que no fue antes? Dime la verdad.
Sí. Estaba muy buena, ya quería probarla, pero
Sí.
sí, y ya me encuentro aquí, siguiendo trabajando donde mismo y gozando de la pasión del jape.
¿Cuánto tiempo llevas con CLS, Rubén?
So, pues mis padres trabajan aquí todavía, ¿verdad? Desde que yo me acuerdo, pero ya estaba yendo a la escuela, trabajaba parte del tiempo y no tiempo completo, ¿verdad? Iba a la escuela y regresaba a trabajar aquí y así hasta que acabé el colegio hace un año y ya, ahora sí ya trabajo aquí tiempo completo.
Qué bien, qué bien.
Pretty sweet.
Yes.
I mean, for getting into the beer world, pretty sweet gig too for Ruben, being able to be around all those delicious hops.
Arturo.
Ruben, I have a question for you.
Puedes traducirla, Arturo. Puedes ponerla en español. Dísela en español, mamá.
En español no, pero
Sí.
Okay, ¿cómo es un día normal en la finca de CLS? ¿Cuáles son los hops que están en season? ¿Cuáles son los hops que están off season? ¿Qué puedes hablarnos sobre eso?
Como de lo, a ver, como un día normal
Un
aquí
día normal, sí.
un día normal como ahorita o durante la season de,
Con
Sí,
el season, en el season.
las dos cosas, durante la temporada y fuera de la
Y fuera de
temporada.
temporada. Sí.
pues cuando no estamos en temporada de las pizcas, hace uno de todo, ¿verdad? No tiene uno algo significado que oh, nomás puedes hacer eso, tienes que hacer eso. Es una finca, ¿me entiendes? Entonces sale algo aquí, sale algo allá, entonces está por todos lados el trabajo, pero durante season, durante las cosechas de lúpulo, es rápido los días, ¿me entiendes?
Se te van rápido.
Corre uno aquí las 24 horas, 6 a 6 o lo que sea, y, y corre rápido, ¿me entiendes? No, yo me enfoco más en la secada del jape,
Ah, ok.
pero un día normal aquí durante la pizca es muy rápido, tiene uno que andar bien alerta de todo porque es muy importante.
¿Cuánto dura el season de recoger?
Dura como unas 6 semanas, más o menos. Dura como desde más o menos del 20 de agosto hasta el 1 de octubre, más o menos. Por la temporada, unos 40 días, más o menos.
Nice.
Ok.
Qué bien. Nice.
So what Ruben was saying, we touched on it last time. The harvest is such a fast
Yeah,
and short
the
period of
window is
time.
really.
So you guys must go from having like your work days must be so different when you're in season versus
Off-season.
now.
Sí, yeah.
Uh, are you guys also like is it a nonstop thing in these about 6 weeks Ruben mentioned Shelly and Eric specifically, which are in the hop farm.
Yeah, typically we start, end of August or around the 19th, 20th, 21st, and last sometimes, the first couple days of October. So, that period of time is 24/7, at CLS. And, we'll start with Centennial and, depending on how, maturity is going, we'll see where we end up. But, I think like Ruben has mentioned, it's definitely an intense time, but it's also an exciting time. So Ruben's been a part of our farm for a while, and he spends most harvests or the last couple harvests up in the kiln, and so he has he's pretty humble, but he literally dries pretty much every hop that gets through CLS. So his hands are in on every pile pretty much. So we're pretty proud of that.
Nice. So
How many people does your group have? Is it a constant thing year round, or how many people are involved in when you're actually harvesting the?
Well, it can fluctuate, throughout the year, just depending on, the type of jobs that are being performed. It can be, 80 to definitely well over 100, at different, points throughout harvest. We definitely have two 12-hour shifts generally, and, it takes quite a few folks to keep things going, humming along really, seamlessly. So, we have a great crew that we rely upon, year after year, and we're really grateful to have them.
nice.
Awesome.
Alexandra, when was your first encounter with El Dorado?
I remember it very well, actually. It was in 2012. and we were doing a collaboration. I was working at Drake's Brewing Company at the time in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we were doing a collaboration for the 25th anniversary of this beer newspaper called Celebrator. And so Drake's and Stone Brewing Company came together to make a beer, which is great. You've probably heard of them. And this was when Mitch Steele was still the brewmaster there. And this is the first time I'd ever met Mitch, but I'd always looked up to him working in the industry. And when it came time to have a conversation about what to brew, we made a pale ale. It's a beer that both him and I really love to drink the most, and we were making it for a beer festival where people consume a lot of alcohol. You want to temper that a little bit, but regardless, I was like, Mitch, there's this hop called El Dorado that I've never worked with before, and I'd really love to try it out. Would you be interested in using it in this beer? And he's like, well, that's funny because I've been really interested and curious about El Dorado for a little while myself. That sounds like a great idea. So we made a really heavily dry hopped pale ale that leaned on El Dorado with Centennial sort of in the supporting role there. And we were both so incredibly impressed by what El Dorado did to the beer. And from that, I was just like, well, I need to put this in like everything I can. I think Mitch had a really similar approach because it made it into one of their major brands. But it was just, that was the very first time. And when it comes to like rubbing a hop and smelling it and analyzing it, it's great if it smells good, but what matters is when it translates into the beer and it's saying in the beer. And it really impressed upon myself and on Mitch in a really massive way. And that kind of started my love affair with El Dorado.
Nice.
Alex, what would you say is like the best case scenario for a recipe specifically for El Dorado? Like, is it a late hop? Is it can you use it anywhere? What would your dream El Dorado beer be?
So we just brewed a collaboration with CLS at Three Weavers last week called El Dorado. It's a 100% El Dorado beer where I used El Dorado in every single step of the process. Bittering, 10-minute, whirlpool, dry hop. And it's my first time doing 100% El Dorado beer, and it tastes so good. I'm so happy with it. It's exceeded all of my expectations. And I'm not just trying to be a company girl about this. I'm being honest about it. Like we did a little like sort of fermenter sensory on it, and everyone was really impressed with how intense the aroma comes through and the flavor. But it shines in the whirlpool. It shines as a mid-boil flavor addition. We lean on it very heavily in whirlpool and dry hopping, and it serves us incredibly well. So like it's not even something that there's some hops that I relegate only to the dry hop because I'm not particularly impressed with how they perform for us in the boil, but El Dorado hasn't really done that. And then of course, we are working with 14 to 15% alpha on it, and so it can actually work as a really versatile and efficient bittering hop.
Nice.
Alex, especially, do you have any preference when the El Dorado is peak? Or do you have any flavor of an aroma change depending on when it's harvested?
Definitely. It does.
Which is the best for you when we harvest?
I and Eric can attest to this. I like a mid to late harvested El Dorado. There's been times where it's been put on the selection table in front of me from early or even mid, and it doesn't strike me in the way that I want it to. I look for this really bright, sweet citrus, specifically lemon in the hop, and then more also stone fruit, cherry, and things like that. And that cherry tends to come out in the later pick of El Dorado. So but this is the thing. I've used early harvest El Dorado as well, and it's still great. It's not my preference in the hop. If I had to use it, I would, but I still find that like no matter when you're picking the hop, you're still pulling out those aromatic notes regardless. And it's not even like a really massively wide picking window, right? We're talking about like days.
But that changed a lot. The picking times change a lot. It's like even like a short period of the harvest.
We're talking like sometimes 3 days, 4 days.
And you can have like a complete change of like aroma, flavor.
It's not a massive change to me. Some things become more apparently intense than others, and that's just what we look for. Because when it comes to hop selection in any beer, not even just like Three Weavers beer, but I usually try and flavor match to what the beer has typically tasted like over the years. But if it's a specific year and a hop is just really blowing my mind, I'll pick it anyway, and the beer will change accordingly because, I mean, it's an agricultural product, right? You can't expect direct repeatability from year to year.
Yeah.
Do you guys have? So you mentioned you tend to go for mid to late harvest, with El Dorado. Is it? Do you prefer that overall with
everything
with CLS Farms hops, or does it really vary by style, by hop?
So, I mean, Chinook is a really good example because I think CLS picks it later than pretty much anyone. And I love this like really deep, bright, pithy grapefruit note that comes out of CLS Chinook, and we pick it year after year. Even blind on a table, I pick it. But no, not necessarily in every variety. I don't actually like super late harvest hops like Simcoe or Mosaic. When they tend to start to throw up any sort of onion and garlic characteristic, I run.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how it is.
I think Vinny from Russian River mentioned to us he really liked his Simcoe like really early on because he liked that brighter, citrusy.
Yeah, exactly. We hunt for grapefruit and tropical in our Simcoe selection, and because of that, it tends to be in the early mid sort of selection window for that variety.
Nice. I sort of like oniony IPA, so I don't know. I guess I'm in the minority with
that. It's just not my personal taste, but some people
love the dankiness.
There's breweries like Lagunitas. Lagunitas will walk into a hop field and be like, let it hang another week, and they'll be like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, just like let it go.
Like just garlic and green onion.
Yeah, and some people still like it. But I'm not one of those people.
If there are any specific order picking the different hop variations, like we are picking first the El Dorado, then we are picking the Mosaic, and it's an order picking the difference.
There is. Certain varieties come off first, and when you're looking at a 6 to 7 week harvest period, and a lot of competition in selection. You'll see me. No, seriously. And when you have Three Weavers is not a very large brewery, and when you have other breweries coming in, and this has actually happened to me before with El Dorado, where one brewery that has massive El Dorado contracts was set to select before me. I'm like, they're gonna wipe out the selection table. Please do me a favor and like either slide me in before or the day before, because they would have come in and just swept the selections off the table. Wow. But yeah, I usually have, not so much anymore. We stick to 2, maybe 3. Yeah, 3 to 4 times. I'll be up there, even in Oregon and Idaho as well, doing selections depending on what's being picked when.
Nice. Shelly, what is the order of picking up the hops? What hops come first? The Cascade, the Citra? How is the order?
Well, it can vary, but we always start off with Centennial, and we are one of the largest growers, and so we pretty much spend 2 weeks picking Centennial, and so we'll pivot into things as they become mature. So if it's time to lean into later pick Chinook or hold off on the El Dorado, or we can pivot into fields as they become mature. We have 14 different varieties, and we have to be flexible a little bit in some of those varieties, and so it's kind of when Eric and Reed get out to the field and say it's time to go, and they'll tell us when, and so the order isn't always kind of there's guides for sure, but sometimes Mother Nature is the best. She's our best guide.
They're ready when they're ready.
Yeah.
We had a question here from Jose Rosa. I don't know that. So he's asking, I'm going to read it in Spanish, and then ¿cuántas variedades de lúpulo cultivan en la finca? So he's asking how many different varieties do you grow, hop varieties do you guys grow in CLS? Probably either Shelly or Ruben probably can chime in on there.
14 right now.
14 right now.
14.
Wow.
And then we had another question from...
There's one we don't know about, though.
So he talking craft beer. He's one of our good friends. He has another podcast. He's saying, what's the decision process for picking who buys the hops? Is it like the NBA draft pick? I don't think it's like the NBA draft pick, but let these guys explain how they.
It's like lottery.
I'll let Eric answer the contracting side.
Is it a random thing, or does the fattest wallet get the?
There's a little bit of that goes on, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that isn't the case, but there's a little bit of that goes on. But most growers are really working pretty hard to get things in their right. The proprietary variety space has changed the metric a little bit because some of those varieties have very defined picking windows that are required by the owners of them, and so those tend to pin people into certain windows for sure. So definitely some of that, but most growers are working pretty hard to get everything where it needs to be. But that is a little bit of a different metric that's happened. But all growers are spending more time than they ever have focused on the proper picking windows, even for public varieties, and so. So I think there is a lot of attention being played to it, but I'm also not gonna tell you that the higher value varieties definitely command your respect a little bit more on when you get there. So Eldorado, Citra, Mosaic, those fields do have a keen eye on them, but CLS we always call ourselves a 50-50 farm, so. 50% public, 50% proprietary. So we work really hard on doing, and Alex can attest to this. We work really, really hard on getting public varieties in the right window as well. So not all farms are that way, but we focus internally really hard on the public variety space, dang near as much as we do in the proprietary space. But industry-wide, there's definitely a little bit of a lean to the higher value varieties. So.
Do you guys, since I'm assuming you guys, like anything, Alex was saying, it's a vegetable product. It's something that you're picking. It's going to vary by year, the same as grapes would for the wine industry. Obviously, you guys probably are going to be a little more, breweries who are going to buy a ton of hops. Like they already have it. I don't know if they pay for it in advance or how the contracts work. Like you're obviously going to appreciate somebody that can take up a lot of these hops, right? Because it's a product that at the end of the day it'll go to waste if nobody if nobody's using it.
Yeah, craft brewers have created a riddle that hop growers and hop dealers have worked really hard to solve. And we went from an industry in 2008, 9, 10 to really like 10 major buyers in the world buying 70 or 80% of the hops. Till now we have 7,000 craft brewers in the United States and another 7,000 globally. And you guys' demand base has completely changed the metric of our farms and how we sell hops. And so we've had to learn how to become much more in tune to craft brewers' needs. And so that has created a much different dynamic for us. And so there's a lot of work. I can tell you from hop dealers down to hop growers, a lot of work towards trying to get the right hop for the right craft brewer. And it's not always perfect. It's not always perfect. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of a victim of your own success. So the vast majority of the United States hop growing region is the largest hop growing region in the world now, and most of all of our crop goes to craft. And so to change from a generic alpha macro brewer perspective to trying to handle 10,000 craft brewers around the world has been a struggle, but it's also been something that the industry's worked really hard on. So I would say the goal, especially proprietary varieties, the goal has been to create the experience very similar from the smallest to the largest brewer. Does that always happen? No, but I do think most proprietary variety owners are really working hard to create that value chain that's the same from a 1,000-barrel brewer to a 200,000-barrel brewer. Alex can certainly attest to that. Doesn't always play out in perfection, but it is what I can say. It is a goal. It is a goal to get there, and it's not always easy, but it's a goal.
Mm.
How easy would it be to track? Like, do you guys have any idea? Like, for example, how many hops end up in the homebrew industry? Like, at least CLS hops, or is it completely difficult to keep tabs on?
That's
Like,
tough. That's tough. I think they estimate there's 2 million. There's like 2 million barrels of homebrew beer made in the United States. So they're probably not really efficient with their hop usage. So let's just say 2.5 pounds a barrel. So that's 5 million pounds. So that's 5 million pounds out of 115 million. So not a big number, And so there's definitely, we sell to all the people that pump a lot of hops into the homebrew market. So definitely a lot of CLS hops are ending up in the homebrew market for sure.
Yeah. Duro.
we have another question here from a viewer, Juan Carlos Rivera. What are the top 3 most wanted hops? I mean, I don't know if you could, if you could, if like in
From
general.
CLS, from CLS.
I'm sure you guys, the CLS. I'm sure El Dorado is probably number 1 out of the CLS, right?
Well, we play with everybody, right? So we're
We're team players.
Yeah, we're independent hop growers. Yeah, we're a big citra grower. So honestly, probably the top 3 hops right now would be Citra, Mosaic, and Strata. Those would be the top. Those would be the top 3. And I would say El Dorado, Idaho 7 are right there, just coming right behind them. And so it's but definitely Strata would be the newcomer a little bit to the world, and so that one's in really high demand. And everybody has a little bit. Every new hop, if it takes off, not all new hops take off, but if new hops take off, they have their day in the sun. And so El Dorado's was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and Strata's is now. And so a lot of it's working hard. A hop takes off, and then you have to get the acreage right to meet its demand. And so Strata's, everybody wants things that are in short supply, and so Strata's in short supply. So that makes people want it even worse. And so Strata would, Citra, Mosaic, Strata would be the top 3. Idaho 7, El Dorado are right there, right behind it.
Comparing with the past harvest, how is the 2019 with this year? It affects something? It's like you have more harvest, you have more yielding, or it was the same than last year?
Well, you guys haven't picked this year yet, right?
No, but I mean, there's no doubt, COVID had its impact, for sure. And so there was a dip in demand, and that dip in demand is real. And certain varieties there's plenty of them. Certain ones are probably more in balance. And so I think there's a lot of uncertainty. Not a lot. I would say there's some uncertainty in the hop industry of where certain varieties are going to go. And so, we're in this post-COVID world a little bit, both brewers and hop growers, and the post-COVID world is a little bit unknown and not sure where we're all sitting quite yet, but the hop industry feels balanced. And so, craft beer is not back to 2019 trend lines. And so, hops are above 2019 trend lines, so that creates a little bit of nervousness. But global craft is kind of, especially your guys' sphere, global craft is a great unknown. And, maybe in the United States, we're in the 7th or 8th inning of craft, but globally, you guys are in the 1st or 2nd inning.
Yeah, that's right.
So, there's still plenty of global growth to handle increased hop acreage. So I think it's a little bit of a wait and see moment, but it feels very balanced.
We had a guest recently on the show from Mad Chef Brewing in Pennsylvania, Francisco Ramirez, the owner. He was saying like at the rate that the breweries and the industry is dealing with the hazy IPA craze and like just more hops and everything. He was saying like he was worried that you would eventually like have a shortage. Of hops just dealing with But do you guys really think that would be an issue?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll tell you as a hop grower, I've been through a lot of shortages, but the hop growers in Washington State, and Alex can attest to this too, we're really good at what we do. And generally our problem isn't underproducing. We might have moments of underproducing, but we have more moments of overproducing. So the hops will get planted in this valley and we'll supply the global craft industry. But there can be year-to-year variations that can be dramatic, and without diving too deep economically into why it is, hops are very inelastic, and so very small shortages in hops can create massive price gains, cost increases. So it's just always really good for brewers to protect and have a certain level of contracting to mitigate that. So the hop industry has short periods of undersupply, very short periods, but longer term it tends to be properly satisfied or even actually oversupplied. So we won't have any problem supplying the world's needs. That's not a problem. But we can have short-term supply disruptions.
Is it still is the industry still increasing in a place like Yakima Valley? Are there still people opening up new farms?
That's not a problem. Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, hop growers are an aggressive group, and there's plenty of land here. There's plenty of water, so there's really no limit to what we can do. We can supply the world with hops. That's not going to be the problem. And so it just becomes more about receiving the signals properly. We need the right kind of economic symbols and incentives to move, and so but the U.S. hop industry will rise to meet the demand. That I'm not worried about. So a lot of stuff, not this heat wave notwithstanding, the Pacific Northwest is blessed with lots of water, and so it will not be a problem even with climate change for us to meet that demand.
Yeah, the heat wave. Again, we were talking about it before the show. It must be ridiculous the levels of heat that you guys are getting. Do you foresee it being right now a major issue, or do you really not know what's going on until just wait it out?
Well, it's a major issue, and so it's statistically they call it a 3 sigma event, which means it's 3 standard deviations away from normal, which puts it at a 1,000-year event. So there are records that are being broken here that have never been that we've never seen. And so that being said, it will have an impact for sure. There's going to be an impact. I don't know if we know the extent of it quite yet, but it's going to have an impact. The best modelers at the University of Washington, they model about 2 degrees of increased temp here versus for climate change. So this event wasn't necessarily caused by climate change, but it's a couple of degrees worse than it would have been. But even if we took those 2 degrees off, we'd still be looking at a fairly serious situation. And so it's going to have an impact. What it is, we don't know quite yet. I think we'll know more within the next week, but there's going to be an impact for sure.
Rubén, te tengo una preguntita. El calor que está haciendo en estos momentos, the heat that is going on, does this affect the harvesting? Is gonna do the harvesting more earlier?
Yeah, so hops are unique in that really the timing of their harvest is based on day length, and so the amount of hours of sunshine and heat and that stuff can actually delay the harvest a little bit. And so no, we don't see harvest being necessarily any earlier. No, that maybe a day, or maybe the needle gets moved a day or two. But no, the heat. Certain times of heat, the year can actually advance a little bit, a day or two, and then certain times of the year with heat can actually delay a day or two. But it's all within about a 3 or 4 day window normally. So no, it doesn't. There won't be any. It'll be very, very similar timing wise. There won't be much change that way.
I have a question for Alex. Going back to brewing and brewing with El Dorado specifically, since you're obviously probably one of the most knowledgeable people and more experienced with the specific hop. Have you done any beers apart from IPAs and pale ales? Like, has it worked like in a way that you said, "Dan, this is awesome," and something in a different style that's not necessarily a hoppy style?
For us personally, no, because I work in a California brewery, and so they want
everything
all the time. That's just kind of the nature of it. But it would work really well it's something I've wanted to try in, like sort of the Italian style pilsner with dry hop. That's not necessarily a noble dry hop. Shelly and I have talked about it in like an apricot sour with El Dorado, so like a sour hopped beer, which would work really well. I mean, you look at, any of the other sort of modern interpretations, India Pale Lagers, cold IPAs, whatever you want to call them, and it has a home in them just based off of its really broad fruit spectrum of aroma and flavor. But yeah, me personally, no. I mean, I work in LA. I ask our sales team, so what do you want me to brew? Like, oh, make us an IPA. I'm like, okay, cool. Is there anything else you want me to make you? And they're like, yeah, make us a fruited IPA. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, can you make it hazy too? And I'm like, okay. So, I work in a production environment. And so very much so we are tied to this concept of satisfying our market. And IPA is still king. And that's not even just in LA, that's across the country. So
I think it's worldwide.
Yeah. Alexandra, what is your favorite IPA?
Period?
Yeah. Your favorite one. The top two.
Blind Pig, Russian River Blind Pig.
Wow.
Definitely there. I love that beer so much. And I wouldn't say Pliny because that's, Blind Pig is always the brewer's pick. And then I know this is like really cheating, but Three Levers Expatriate IPA.
Wow, no, it's not cheating.
Because I make the beer, right? I make the beer that I want to drink all the time. I'm drinking it right now. Right? Yeah, so I love it. It's a beer that we've been brewing since day one, and it's had really minimal changes to its recipe. It's become really synonymous with the modern West Coast IPA style in Southern California specifically. I'm very proud of that fact, and it just hits all the right notes, flavor-wise, and bitterness-wise, and finish-wise, and I could drink it all the time. And I do, but yeah.
Since Alex mentioned the California thing, which obviously makes sense, and like Arturo was saying, probably worldwide. I think in Puerto Rico too, most people here, at least more craft beer drinkers, they'll probably go for an IPA 9 out of 10 times. But I'm assuming do most of the sales for CLS stay in and go to the state of California, or is it really well distributed, or?
Yeah, it's pretty diverse, but we love our California brewers, so we can't go wrong with West Coast. Lots of good California beer that we had last week, but we see a pretty diverse group out there too. So we're pretty happy with all our breweries all around the world.
Nice.
But I did have some. If you ever get to Three Weavers, Alex, we got to have some really fresh beer, and she gave us the treatment to put us through a lot of sensory, and we got to try some outstanding stuff there. So she reps El Dorado very well, and always has. So we're love to go down and see what California is always brewing.
We didn't do fun sensory either, though. I did 1, 2, and we do what 1, 3, and 6 month cold stored expatriate versus 1 month warm stored expatriate, just to illustrate the difference between how fast heat can kill a beer.
Yeah. Wow.
Because we keep a library of all of our beers. Every release we have, we keep for at least 6 months, and we keep it warm and cold. And it's really great to kind of, illustrate why we preach cold chain all the time for the beer, because, sitting at the table with Shelly and Claire and Reed and just going through like how fast the hops die when not cared for, I thought was really fun. So she didn't even get to try a bunch of really awesome beers and sensory. It was an educational sensory experience.
I think of every sensory as a good opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's great. The beer is really bad once you get to like 1 month warm, 2 months warm, even like 6 months cold. But it's really important, I think, to know how the beer ages and what's going on in the market, because that's what we do. We sell our beer into a marketplace, and consumers are perceiving it very differently sometimes than how we intended it as a brewer.
Did you notice like a huge change in the month-old cold beer versus the 6 month? Like the 1 month hot beer versus the 6 month cold beer?
They were actually fairly similar, but there was more oxidative characteristics in the 1 month warm than there was in the 6 month cold.
Wow.
Like you still had a little bit of hop character and fruitiness in it, but at 1 month hops were gone. It was just like honey, sherry, slightly astringent bitterness, and all of the aroma was just dead.
So definitely an excellent point for keeping your beers in the fridge.
Yes.
6 months versus a month is it's pretty insane.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric, Shelly, what do you guys think is the next hit, the next hop hit? Last episode we mentioned Zappa, which Eric explained how you guys came up with it, which is pretty cool. And obviously El Dorado. Do you guys have any new experimental things that you think might be a pretty big hit in the future or near future?
Yeah, we have one that we're beginning to scale this year, so it's just a numbered variety within us. But there will be some small levels of production this year. Not enough to really do any brewing trials with, but definitely some sensory on. But we're fairly confident in it, so we'll scale it up next year to get to a level that would warrant that has enough to brew with. It's a hop that we've had in our collection for a while. It's really nice thing is it's a late harvest hop, so as just from a logistical point of view of growing hops, it's important for brewers too. If we can find hops all through the chain of ripeness from early to late, then that actually at the end of the day allows us to deliver hops at a better price point to brewers, because we're not having to overbuild our facilities for a certain tight harvest window. So if we can run 45 days in our picker, we can deliver a hop in a much more reasonably priced manner than if we only have to run it 18 days. So the thing we like a lot about this hop is we think it's basically the end of September, early October harvest. So if we can prove that out in a commercial trial, then that's going to be something that we're pretty excited about. So we should know more next year. So stay tuned. We can do this again next year. This time we should have.
Right now,
it's just experimental hop, right?
So right now it's a number.
No, we don't. No, we're not. There's no number. There's no
name.
No, because
I'm ready.
Well,
it's sort of like a simple thing. Road to Hill 56.
Yeah, I've lived through enough numbers, and that it's kind of like this right now.
Yeah, so, well, it's like Idaho 7, right? That never graduated past Idaho 7. And then the HBC breeding program has, now they called it Pato, which I don't like that name, but they called it Pato. But the number 682, so they left it 682 for years, and I still can't call it Pato. I call it 682. So.
I do all the marketing, so I'm like, nope, we're not going to name a name or any number, or we're just,
You can
It
put
is-
the name of breaking news beer and coffee. Don't worry.
I know. What I'll tell you is it's not really scientific. We called it CLS X14, and the only reason I called it 14 was because we wanted to be 14 bales per acre. And so that's how sophisticated we got there. So.
like Zappa was FZRM. I mean, Frank Zappa, Rio, you know, Mexico. I mean, it was. I mean, our names are not always based off of type or breed. It's based off kind of what's going on at the moment and
It's based
how
off of feeling.
Yeah.
it's based off of the experience and based off exactly. That's all I'm about.
So it just needs another year.
Yeah.
Another
I walked out there and I was like, oh, okay, yep, yeah. You just sometimes hops speak to you in a different way, and you have to listen, and you just kind of take it all in, and before you actually say it, you want to let it sit with you for a while and process. And we actually have to meet this hop, so we haven't really met it on the table or met it in a beer, and so I don't want to jump to something that before we actually meet it and hang out and talk and put it in a beer.
Jorge's always saying beer speaks to him, so
Yeah.
let the house speak to you as well.
There we speak.
Yeah. Yeah,
You were
I think-
mentioning. Go ahead.
Okay.
You guys mentioned brewing trials. Would you go to somebody like Alex for that, or do you guys have any in-house type of?
No, we always rely on our brewing friends to tell us what, give us feedback and help us, with the evaluation. During harvest, we'll get quite a few visitors, as some of you have been through, during hop harvest. And we often put hops on the table, and it gives every visitor a chance to, do sensory on it, give us feedback, come up with descriptors, the aroma. And then, if we have some, and we'll definitely be, sending it out to a few folks to get some feedback on. We do that quite often because, we don't necessarily have an R&D. We feel our brewing community and our customers are R&D for us, and we listen to what they say. They tell us how they like it. They tell us, all about it. And so, they're the experts. We're the farmer, and we grow it, and we let the brewers be the experts on brewing it. With any kind of hop, with Zappa especially, that was like a really critical, harvest year. We got some really fun, different feedback on that, and so I still use those names like purple and savory and spice and fruity pebbles, and I think we always go back to kind of our childhood memories too, and Alex is so good at these descriptors, like in El Dorado or any hop, and so that's the colorful language that resonates the emotion that comes with all these different hops. And so, capturing that emotion, capturing that flavor in the beer, and how that sets a beer apart from others, and it's so unique and special. So if we had an R&D, I think that would be fun, but it's better to let others have fun with it.
I'm sure Alex is excited to get our hands on that X14. Give it a whirl.
Arturo.
I have a question. I I am intrigued with your shirt. It said Lupo Max.
Lupo Max.
What is Lupo Max? I was reading that you guys have available El Dorado in Lupo Max.
Dude, do you want me to answer that? Like, to be honest,
Or Alex could answer that too.
I'll be honest with you, so I really don't know too much about it, but yeah, Super Max.
I love your shirt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can answer a little bit about what Lupomax is. It's basically a more constant. So the standard pellet is called a T90 pellet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you start to remove more of the vegetative matter from the pellet, you change its classification, typically like a T45 pellet. So Lupomax is basically a type of concentrated pellet, but when typically these sorts of pellets may have been produced from like kind of what's left on the floor, what brewers like to call floor sweepings, which they're not floor sweepings. I understand this. It's more of a selected concentrated hop pellet. So it's a product from Haas, and they're using just really great selections of hops to produce this concentrated form of pellet.
Nice.
So
So
that's why
is it like you're picking the best ones or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like there's sometimes when you strip a lot of this stuff out of it and you're just left with like the base sort of lupulin and like, terpenes and things and oils, you can strip out a lot of the crap and a lot of the vegetative matter you can, but not necessarily for all the right reasons. And so I think they're producing it to kind of, one, keep up with some of the other more concentrated pellets that are coming out from other brokers in the market, but also just to provide, it's just like another color of paint on like the brewer's palette.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
that's
So,
a very nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do you recommend to use the Lupomax? Whirlpool, dry hopping, or bittering?
I think
Which
that
stage?
it can, because it is concentrated in character and the aroma character and its impact to the beer, you can end up using less of it in both your whirlpool and your dry hop, so it can increase your knockout yields.
Yeah.
And it can also help increase your dry hopping yields because hops can't absorb a lot of beer. And beer loss is massive in highly dry hop beers. So it's a twofold where it can provide increased amounts of aroma, but also improve your yields. Although we just made that single hop El Dorado beer, and I used 2 pounds per barrel of Lupomax in the dry hop. So 2 pounds of T90 and 2 pounds of Lupomax. So we're 4 pounds per barrel. I am going to experience some massive loss on that beer.
It's gonna probably taste and smell amazing though.
It's amazing. I just really, the idea, I think when I talk about evaluating a new hop variety, I tell you to go big on it, and then you can scale back from there, but you can't really know the extent of what the hop is capable of doing unless you just really get ridiculous.
Perfect. I like ridiculous IPAs.
Yeah.
As you guys can see, I think we all drank sort of more
Yes.
heavily hopped beers today. So awesome. So what are you guys? What are the future plans? CLS, Three Weavers. What are any future plans before we wrap up the
interview?
So
I think we're all doing, everyday work around here, getting hops ready for harvest, and just educating ourselves, educating brewers, just working on, a bunch of different collabs. We have some great collabs coming up, the next few months, and then just really getting ready for harvest, and which we're excited about for sure this year.
And for Three Weavers, what future plans, Alexandra?
I mean, California
for the next batch. Yeah.
Yeah. When it doesn't really leave the brewery, or it's truly an R&D thing. I don't care about cost. For the most part, though, I'm really efficient when it comes to costing out commercial production beers. You have to be. It is a business in the end. But no, Three Weavers, we're just going to kind of keep growing at the rate that we have. 2020 was a weird year for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
California is just really starting to reopen again. So it's trying to not drop the ball.
Get more beer.
Yeah, while also making more beer.
It's great. Don't mess it up. That's
Thank you.
Yeah.
I say that to myself so many times a day, except instead of mess, there's an expletive in there. So,
Nice. So before we go, I have to change to Spanish. Ok. Amigos, pues ahora vamos a anunciar nuestros próximos episodios y nuestros próximos inventos aquí en Breaking News Beer and Coffee, nuestro próximo invitado y nuestro próximo, como dice Arturo, en vivo. Va a ser, poncha mal ahí, señor director, que se me olvida la cosa. Sé que va a ser el 13 de julio. El 13 de julio a las 8 de la noche. Apunten la fecha. Vamos a tener Having a Beer with Jeremy Kosmicki. Va a ser una entrevista con el maestro cervecero de Founders Brewing Company, Jeremy Kosmicki. Ya lo saben, apunten la fecha, martes 13 de julio a las 8 de la noche. Y Arturo, ¿esto va a ser grabado o va a ser como, Arturo?
¡En vivo!
Va a ser en vivo, Pues ustedes saben que nosotros nos pasamos inventando cosas así, nos gusta el bollete y inventar cosas. Ustedes saben cómo somos.
La algarabía.
La algarabía, y nos gusta inventar cosas. Mira, antes de hacer este anuncio, quiero agradecer a las siguientes personas, porque hay que ser agradecidos, que cuando nosotros le dijimos la idea, dijeron, vamos a, mira, nos dijeron, mira, no ni pusieron pero, ni, ay, yo no sé, no tengo miedo, no sé, yo, vamos allá,
Vamos.
dale, nos dijeron así, dale. Tenemos que agradecer a la gente de Cold Blood Brewing Company, en particular a Juan Carlos y a María Elis, que son los dueños, y también quiero agradecer a Jorge Castro de Box Lab. Queremos agradecer también a Jeremy de Rincón Beer Company. Queremos agradecer también al presidente de los Homebrewers de Puerto Rico, y cuando lo llamamos nos dijo, dale también, a Billy Norris, dueño de Caribbean Brewing. Quiero agradecer a nuestros colegas que también tienen su podcast y brindan con cerveza. Quiero agradecer a Andrés Nieves de Talking Craft Beer. Quiero agradecer a Héctor y Carlos de Leche y Coco Productions. Queremos agradecer por grandemente a la comunidad de mujeres cerveceras. ¿A quién más se me queda? Queremos agradecer a Ricky de Craft Beer, que cuando lo llamé, Ricky, necesitamos que nos ayudes con esta logística, porque tú eres el experto haciendo mapas y esto, lo otro. Ricky, gracias por darnos la mano con esto.
Y a Rafa.
A Rafa también de Road to Craft Beer, se me iba a quedar, pero no se me quedó. Gracias, Arturo, por acordármelo. Yo creo que ya los dije todo. Pues mira, queremos anunciar que este próximo, ¿cuándo es el próximo?
24
de julio. Tenemos este evento que es traído a ustedes por Breaking News y la esquinita Jardín Cervecero. Se llama Puerto Rico Breweries Road Trip Summer Edition 2021. Apunten la fecha desde ahora, se lo estamos diciendo prácticamente con un mes de anticipación. No tienen excusa, hagan los planes, dejen los nenes cuidando, o los dejen con nosotros, olvídate de eso. El 24 de julio a las 10 de la mañana, el punto de encuentro va a ser la esquinita Jardín Cervecero en Bayamón. Quique nos va a hacer el favor de abrir esa primera hora de 10 de la mañana a las 11, porque a las 11 arrancamos para la primera cervecería que vamos a visitar, que se llama Cold Blood, y después vamos para Box Lab, y después para Rincón Beer Company, y vuelvo en encuestas, porque a mí me encantan las colaboraciones, ¿sabes? Que a mí me gusta esto, los juntes, me encantan esto. gracias a Homebrewer de Puerto Rico, gracias a la comunidad de mujeres de cerveceras de Puerto Rico, gracias a Caribbean Brewing, gracias a Leche de Coco Production, gracias a Talking Craft Beer, Road to Craft Beer y Ricky Craft Beer. Y esto tengo que decirlo, cuando nosotros le planteamos la idea a nuestro artista gráfico por excelencia, Arturo Ferrer, como siempre, sobrepasa las cosas que yo tengo en mi mente, que tenemos en nuestras mentes, siempre se saca la bola fuera del parque. Esto es un cuadrangular, esto es un arte bello y precioso, porque nosotros no decimos que estamos planificando algo, ni esto, lo otro, lo hacemos, nosotros actuamos. Mira, aquí estamos, nosotros planificamos tras bastidores y ejecutamos. Esta es la ejecución y quiero que nos acompañen. Los que están fuera de Puerto Rico, pues viajen ese día para que estén con nosotros también.
Para comprar pasajes.
Compre los pasajes, están baratos.
Ya
yo lo compré. Ya voy a estar ese día.
Para el que quiera tener autógrafo de Jorge. Ya saben.
Los que quieran un abrazo de oso de mi parte, ese día aprovechen.
Abrazo de Bigfoot.
De Bigfoot. Pues ya saben, ya hicimos los 2 anuncios. Después vienen otras cositas más en el mes de julio que todavía se están cuadrando. Y también sé que tenemos en el mes de agosto, tenemos al PA Day, que viene algo por ahí bien chévere. También vamos a tener siempre se me olvida, el de Dogfish, Sam Calillón. Sam Calillón va a estar con nosotros en agosto. Ya saben, apunten las fechas, no tienen excusa, mi gente. Esperamos que estén con nosotros estas 2 fechas que les dijimos y para verlos, para compartir en persona y pasarla bien, como yo siempre digo, ¿te gusta la cerveza? A mí también me gusta. Pues ya somos amigos y amigas, somos cuates, somos amigos. Somos lo que tú quieras, carnales, lo que tú quieras. Somos, mira, nos abrazamos porque la cerveza nos une. Pero nada, antes de despedirnos, pues, ahora pues que las personas pues, no tienen social media, ahora cambio inglés. So, Alexandra, how people know about your brewery in social media? Tell us about the social media.
You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram. Facebook, we're Three Weavers Brewing. 3 is spelled out. Instagram, just Three Weavers. And then you can visit our website at threeweavers.la.
Nice. Woohoo! So, Eric and Shelly, CLS, send us your social media.
Yeah, you can follow us on CLS Farms, El Dorado, Neo Mexicanas, www.clsfarms.com.
Nice. So, Rubén, your social media, Instagram, whatever, donde las personas te pueden conseguir también a ti, para que vean.
What's your personal social media?
Yeah, put it out there, Ruben.
I'm not
at
very active
Lupulos,
but I guess I probably should be. So, my first name is Ilario Ruben Verduzco. So I always had my first name because that's how I went off in school. But like at the farm and everybody that's kind of closer to me know me as Ruben. So I guess my Instagram is just Ilario132. So it's HILARIO 132. And yep, that's Ilario Verduzco. And,
and also you have a Facebook or only Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah.
everybody, you have to put some photo of the farm, of you with the hats, like a model,
Drinking his favorite IPA.
I'm drinking beer.
He's gonna have a fantastic vantage point to the hop operation, so it's pretty interesting. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. So, Arturo, ¿dónde te pueden conseguir? Cuéntame.
Me pueden conseguir en Facebook como Arturo Ferrer.
Pónchalo, señor director. No, el señor director no puso, que a mí se me olvida siempre. Míralo ahí.
Ahí está. Facebook Arturo Ferrer y Instagram Minimalist. Mira, con aquí.
Quique, cuéntame dónde te pueden conseguir y invita a la gente el 24 para que le des el remate. Vamos.
Sí, los veo a todos en, las esquinitas Jardín Cervecero, como saben, búscanos en Instagram y Facebook. Y sí, como dijo Jorge, espero verlos a todos allí el 24. por la mañanita nos encontramos ahí en la esquinita. Si se quieren dar 2 o 3 beers y llegar feliz a Cold Blood, eso nos hará muy bien contentos.
Es lo que
Mira,
vamos a
pues,
hacer.
y ese día, yo creo, yo escuché algo así, yo no sé, yo para mí que es un rumor, pero para que Sergio se entere, me contó que no van a abrir, me dijo que no van a abrir.
Vamos a ver, estamos
no vamos a abrir,
planificando.
se acabó.
Pero yo creo que nos montamos todo el mundo, todo el corillo de la esquinita, nos montamos en el
Marian también
La
con
cuestión es que se
nosotros.
pueden abastecer ahí.
Nos vamos a janguear con ustedes.
Claro que sí. Mira, pues a mí, ese día, ¿dónde está? Ese
Vale.
día 24, vamos para la esquinita temprano, ya saben, a las 10 de la mañana, mira, para tomar café. Tomar café temprano, mira.
Bueno, está la Early Riser, tú sabes.
Café, exacto, café. Ya saben, café, mi perro, a mí me pueden conseguir en Facebook bajo Resca Ramos Lugo, en Instagram bajo Ramones Brew. Ya saben la fecha. El ponchalo otra vez, lo del 24, señor director, ponchámoslo ahí, yo quiero ver, ya saben. Puerto Rico Breweries Road Trip 2021 Summer Edition. ¿Por qué le pusimos, esto es bien importante, por qué le pusimos Summer Edition? Porque para poder hacer todo lo que nos dé la gana durante el año, no poner como que first, no, el primero, no, esto es todos los que queramos por ahí para abajo. Vamos a hacerlo y vamos a hacer el de Winter, el de Octavita, lo que queramos. Vamos a hacer, esta vez pues vamos a hacer lo que es la costa noroeste de la isla, pero luego vamos a hacer el sur, luego vamos a hacer la noreste, que son eso vamos por ahí, ya saben. Mira, saludos, Pedro, un abrazo. Ya saben, el 24 a las 10 de la mañana, apunten la fecha, esperamos verlo allí, dense cita allí. Mira que este bello hizo Arturo, como siempre se vota, gracias Arturo nuevamente, y vamos para atrás. Y nada, pues no tengo más nada que decir. ¿Qué? Como decía mi abuela. Y cojo la copa que está vacía allá. Thank you. Gracias a todos. Thank you for being with us in our podcast. Será hasta la próxima, como decía mi abuela. ¡Salud! Y pesetas. Y no se vayan para la foto, díselo.
Thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. Means a lot. Appreciate it. Look forward to trying your beers. Alex, I'm sure they're fantastic. So next time I'm in Cali, I'm going to be sure to stop in Three Rivers.
Yeah,
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick screenshot after the outro. So stick around for a couple seconds. Thank you guys.
Salud y pesetas, corillo.
Cheers.